Good evening. Brother Steve asked me to share with you today my testimony and how I came to know the Lord and some things that God has done in my life. First off, I would like to say if I seem nervous, it's because I am. I'm not much of a speaker, but I know that God's going to get me through this. He is faithful in every situation in our lives, and He has taught me that through the years, that no matter what I'm going through, to never forget that He is faithful. 1 John 1:9 says, if we confess our sins, He is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. So I believe that one of the first acts of God's faithfulness in our life is our salvation experience. And I remember as a 12-year-old, my dad is a pastor, was in church all my life. And as a 12-year-old in Enigma, Georgia, where he pastored this church, he would often talk to us about salvation and accepting Christ into our heart, my sister and myself. And I remember that while we were in Enigma, Georgia, both my sister and myself, we were saved. We made a profession of faith. We walked the aisle. We were baptized. And you go through life believing in your heart that that you had done that you accepted Jesus, and you're living for Him. You're trusting in Him, and believe you're following Him. But oftentimes, we have false experiences in our life, and that's what I had. I don't know why, but it is. And I remember in April of 1994, we had a revival service here at Russell Baptist Church. Brother Keith Thrash was our pastor. I don't recall who the speaker was that night, but I do remember something he said right before the invitation, because God used it to make an impact on my life. As deacons, we would always go up and form a prayer circle during the invitation, and one deacon would stand outside that prayer circle. And if someone had a prayer need, they could bring it to the deacon outside the circle, and then he would take it into the circle, and we would pray for that person. Well, I happened to be outside the circle that night. And I remember the speaker making the comment, I believe there's someone here who needs Jesus tonight. And I want to tell you something that I had never felt before in my life. It was overwhelming. I became very emotional. It was as if Jesus was standing in front of me, pointing to me, saying, you're that person. As a deacon, sometimes, we think, oh, Lord, what am I going to do? What are people going to think? But at that moment, it didn't matter what anyone thought, except Jesus. I knew what I had to do. He drew me to Himself. And so I went up front. I talked to Brother Keith. I told him what had happened in my life. I was rebaptized, and I became God's child that night, and I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful for God's faithfulness, and that He doesn't give up on us. Even when we say we've done what He wanted us to do, sometimes it's just us doing it on our own. But I'm so glad that God drew me to Himself. He continues to teach me daily. He continues to show me His faithfulness daily. So no matter what we're going through, this virus is a terrible situation. But as His children, we know that He is in control of this virus. We know that His hand of protection is upon us, that He watches over us, that He cares for us. So whatever you're going through, whether it's a job situation, marital situation, financial situation, just as an encouragement, just look to God and His faithfulness, because He will bring us through any situation that we face in our lives. May God bless.